Welcome to the most listened to golf in the world, the Fairways of Life show, on air, online, and around the world, with the most candid interviews, unforgettable stories, taking you beyond the ropes. Here's your host, New York Times best-selling author, Matt Adams.
As we welcome you into the Fairways of Life studios from the PXG Custom Studios, where you have never played like this before. Log on to pxg.com and get more information as to how and why. So we have such a cool show for you set up today. And the reason we're doing this, obviously, is because, and you can sense the excitement all around the world of golf, we are down to days before the start of the Ryder Cup week. So we went into our archives, and we have an interview that's never aired on this forum before with Tony Jacklin. Tony Jacklin is the man that structured the modern Ryder Cup. Now, when you think about Tony and who he is and what he meant to the game of golf, Tony Jacklin was the most successful British player of his generation. He won the 1969 Open. He won the 1970 U.S. Open. And when he won that U.S. Open, the latter of those two I just referenced, it was by 7 strokes. He was the Sir Henry Cotton Rookie of the Year in 1963. He also had the distinction, get this, of making the first ever televised hole-in-one. That was at the 1967 Ryder Cup. He was Europe's first true global player, having joined the PGA Tour in 1968. He won there multiple times, too. At the 1969 Ryder Cup, he was a beneficiary of the famed concession from Jack Nicklaus. That resulted in a halve. After that, there were voices that were whispering that became a clamor and a call, and the loudest amongst them was none other than the aforementioned Jack Nicklaus, that said that Europe should join GB and I, so that there was more balance, there was more equity. That's the vision that Jack Nicklaus had, not only with the concession in 1969, but his vision of saying we need to bring these guys together. Ultimately, on the European side, they turned to Tony Jacklin. At that point, he was outside of the circle of the Ryder Cup, saying by his own words he was done. So too was Seve Ballesteros. Think about this for a second. And instead, he came in and he changed, well, everything. We wouldn't have the Ryder Cup that we have today without this man. So let's start talking about his book. This was, 3 years ago that we did this interview in his house about his experiences at the Ryder Cup. Welcome back to the Fairways of Life show. His march into professional golf. Absolutely remarkable show ahead.
Well, I was back and forth doing podcasts when the scourge started 2 years ago, March, and we were on lockdown, and I was just starting a chemo. I have lymphoma, and it's got to be kept under control, and it was getting a little bit out of control, so the doctor recommended I go on a 6-month monthly infusion of chemo, and I wasn't feeling that great, and I wasn't getting out. So my friend Tony Jimenez over in the UK says, what about us talking daily and doing a book? I said, I think it's going to give us something to do at least. And that was really how it started. We were Zooming every day or FaceTiming or whatever, and reminiscing. I'm fortunate that I can still remember pretty well. My remember is pretty good still. It turned out really, I'm very happy with it. It turned out great, and lots of memories in there.
Your little doggy Bentley's saying hi to me too.
Well, Bentley's, he's a good little boy, but he's got so much love in him. He comes up and licks everybody.
It's if somebody busted into the house, he'd be giving them kisses. Hi, Bentley. It's good to see you, doggy. So our discussion today is along the lines of what Tony was just talking about. I definitely want to talk about Tony Jacklin's Ryder Cup journey. But to get to the Ryder Cup journey, there are building blocks into who this man is and why he has attained such a legendary status as a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame. To that point, I want to talk to you about
your background, how it was. Your dad worked in the steelworks, as I recall, and your mom, I believe, worked in the weekends in the market last time we discussed it. How then did a kid from Lancashire, right? How did you discover golf?
Well, my dad's neighbour, when we were living in Scunthorpe, in a semi-detached house, I was kicking a ball around in the yard one day. It would be 1953. You know, I was 8 or 9. And the neighbour leans over the fence and said to my dad, "Arthur, I went to try golf today. I think you might like it. You know, we should go." And, well, the next day they made a date to go. He told my mother he'd be back in an hour. And, of course, 3 hours later, his dinner's in the oven, keeping warm, and he was smitten. And I used to go with him, you know, because there was not much to do as a kid there. I was pretty bored, and I pulled this trolley, and then ultimately had a go when we got away from the clubhouse and a member's eyes. And I was, you know, pretty much smitten, and it became a mission with my dad and I. He was in his mid-30s already, but he got down to a 4 handicap, which was, you know, a pretty good effort with not many lessons. Or I never had a lesson. I was sort of self-taught. Ben Hogan's book was, and that was the year, of course, of Hogan's 3 majors wins, and he was about all we had. No TV. You know, it didn't exist, and certainly no golf on TV. So Golf Illustrated and Hogan's book, Fundamentals, and all the rest of it were what we had to go by, and plenty of time.
Incredible.
Which was the most important bit, and putting the time in. And by the time I got to 13, the Ryder Cup came within 60 miles of where we lived. And of course, I'd never had the opportunity to see world-class golf living in Scunthorpe. It just didn't happen. And my dad said, "Would you like to go?" And I said, "Let's do it." And he took me over there. And,
that was a big Ryder Cup, too.
Oh, it was huge in Britain and Islands. It was a watershed year. Diarese's team beat Jackie Burke's team. I mean, it was only 8 men. Through that whole period and into the 70s, of course, the formula changed. They were trying to make it maybe fairer. You know, somehow Brits were trying to get it done, but they rarely did it. And that was one year they did do it. Di was a tenacious captain. I actually played under him in 1967, just 10 years beyond that first experience. But that first experience in '57 cemented my life. I mean, it was, hey, this is what I want to do. And we got back to the club in time for 9 holes, and I got best 9 holes I ever played.
Wow.
Inspiration, you know, as a 13-year-old. It was something. And I was just starting to physically, you know, get stronger.
Yeah.
So, no, it was within a couple of years of that, I was playing county golf with the men and all, and moving quickly.
What was it like as a youth at that time, Tone, growing up in a post-war United Kingdom? Well,
there was no money for a start. And, you know, the membership at Scunthorpe Golf Club for a junior was £2. My full membership for my dad, it was a working men's club, £8 a year. So, I mean, that gives you an indication. No clubs. I mean, we went to the local sale room and we bought a set of hickories. My dad did. It was an old bag in the corner. But, you know, as a 13-year-old, I didn't mind that because we, you know, got a saw and cut them down, took the grips, put them back on. And in the summer, you used to have to stick those hickory sticks in a bucket of water before you played because the wood would shrink and the heads would start to rattle. You know, people don't, I mean, I remember stuff like that. It was, you'd put them in a bucket for an hour and the wood would swell up and the heads would be where they needed to be. And
what did you dip it in just as far so that it wouldn't hit the leather grip, or was
just the head, just submerge the head so that the wood would swell and the hosel would stay from rattling. Stuff and of course, as I said, the time, we had so much time, and I spent all of it trying to become better.
It's fantastic. This is the kind of conversation that we're going to have today with this legend, member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, Tony Jacklin, as we go down the pathway. Yes, his Ryder Cup journey, as his book is called, Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey, but also the journey of his life. More of the Fairways of life coming up after this.
It takes focus, calculated aggression, and a precise mindset for shots like these. When the pressure builds, only the sharpest ball strikers survive. And Kurt Kitayama activated Weekend Warrior mode with a course record Saturday and a flurry of birdies Sunday. Congratulations, Kurt, winner of the 3M Open with the Tour BX mindset. Bridgestone Golf, the #1 ball fitter in golf.
FlightScope Mevo Plus is the ultimate indoor and outdoor golf launch monitor and simulator. It gives you the club and ball data you need with the accuracy you demand. Mevo Plus comes with ownership of simulated golf courses for you to play and practice at home. Mevo Plus is an essential golf partner to help you improve and understand your game better. Put more purpose in your practice. To learn more and get your Mevo Plus, shop now at flightscope.com.
Golfers today are a different breed.
Who? Me? We see the game in a different way.
We all have our own styles.
We swing our own swing.
But we have one thing in common.
We are all about the details.
Introducing the Revel line of grips from Superstroke. With 3 distinct offerings to choose from, the Revel is in the details.
Our journey began with a simple yet powerful vision to provide the world with the highest quality Virginia-type peanuts. The Hubbard Peanut Company, where quality and tradition meet to create an unforgettable experience. Visit hubspeanuts.com to explore our full range of products and place your order today.
Middle market businesses are facing unprecedented shifts, which demand tailored solutions and decisive action. RSM stands as the unwavering leader of the middle market, empowering you to take charge of change and conquer this era of transformation. RSM. Experience the power of being understood.
Welcome back to the Fairways of Life show. I am Matt Adams, and we are absolutely delighted to announce our newest partner, the Stream Song Resort. You know, golf in its purest form is always about a physical challenge, the solving of a mental riddle, and the resolve to embrace your emotions and, gratitude for what is, and in giving yourself grace for what you hoped would have been. Stream Song Resort is unlike any other golf destination in the world. It's framed by towering dunes, ancient and unrefined Florida landscape, and the serenity of thousands of acres devoted to your passion of golf. You can escape to where your golf dreams are met with amazing golf courses, luxurious accommodations, exquisite dining, an indulgent spa, and endless array of outdoor activities from fishing to archery. It is time for Streamsong, and we could not be more proud. Log on to streamsongresort.com. As we continue now with our conversation with an absolute legend and a World Golf Hall of Fame member in Tony Jacklin, not only about his course to triumph in the game of golf, but how he redefined the modern Ryder Cup.
His book is called Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey, and it's by him and Tony Jimenez. If you get a chance to pick this up wherever fine books are sold, perfectly on Amazon or otherwise, no matter where you're watching us from around the world. So in the last segment, Tone, we were talking about your formative years and getting into the game and playing for county and starting to realize that you were good enough to do something with this game. 1962, was it, that you decided to turn professional?
60 years ago.
And when you did that, did you anticipate that you would become a touring professional, or was it just to work in the trade?
I just wanted to be a professional golfer, and at that point. And, of course, in Lincolnshire, there was only one club, that was Woodhall Spa, that could afford an assistant pro. Mm-hmm. The way you got into the game then, you had to work for a professional in a shop and at a club. And Woodhall Spa was the only club that could afford that. And of course, my parents were nervous. I was only at 16. I left school at 15. You know, they didn't think, you know, the professional golf lark was going to be very, very successful. So, like most of young kids in Scunthorpe, I went into steelworks as an apprentice fitter, which I hated. I mean, having to clock in every morning at 7:30, and it was awful. So, unbeknown to my parents, I started writing off. And Golf Illustrated had a sort of back page adverts, and I started writing off for jobs. I wrote to one of them was Bakersfield, California. I remember I just wanted to be in the golf game. And anyway, I got an answer from Bill Shanklin at Potter's Bar Golf Club. And I approached my dad. This was about a year after being in the steelworks. And I got an answer, you come and for an interview. And of course, it wasn't down the road. There was no motorways in England then in 1962. So, and our car was anything but a Mercedes. My dad has an old banger, like Austin 7, whatever. And London was a 4 or 5 hour drive on windy roads. And anyway, I convinced him to take me to see Bill Shanklin. This was November 61. And Shanko was a hell of a salesman for starters. And he said, oh, he'll do well if he comes here. He'll do very well if he comes here. And, you know, he said, I've had 35 assistants through here. Well, we thought that was an impressive thing. Of course, I wouldn't think. None of them could stand it very long. You know, they all cleared off after a month when they saw how tough he was, because he was a bully, and that was that. But you know, from my end, it was £6 a week, and 50% of what I could earn teaching and playing. Well, I wasn't getting £4 a week at the steelworks.
Okay.
So I found some digs. One of the caddies' wife says, well, you can stay with us for a couple of weeks till you get sorted. £3.15 a week she charged. So I still had change out of the £6. And, you know, then there was the teaching and playing pound around I got when I went out with the members. And to me, I said to myself, I'm going to be better off and I'll be fine here. I like it, you know, and okay, he capitulated. And I started there on the 1st of January 1962, and there was a foot of snow on the ground. And we drove that drive back down there for a suitcase in hand, £5 in the pocket. And Shanklin says, well, you can't, I mean, it's snowing, you can't, you'll have to come back in a few weeks' time. I said, this is it. We can't do that. My dad works and so on. So I stayed, went in the shop, not much to do for the first few days, but Shanko had to bite the bullet and pay my wages. And I never had a day off for 7 months because I daren't ask him for one, and he never offered to give me one. So I just kept on turning up, you know, 8 o'clock every morning, opening the shop. And And in his defence, he did, let me practice and, have time to hone my game. And that's all really I wanted to do. I mean, quickly realised I wasn't much of a retail man. I didn't like dusting the shelves in the shop. And so I started playing in local events in Middlesex, was the county that Potter's Bar is. And I won the Middlesex Assistants Championship in April that year, and that got a bit of attention. And it got me a new set of golf clubs from Dunlop, which I'd never had a sort of proper set of clubs.
This is 1962 now, right?
1962.
It's incredible to think that 7 years later you would win the Open, but carry on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was warp speed. It was going ahead. Anyway, I lasted just over a year with Bill Shanklin before we had a blowout, and I was crying and telling him I wouldn't work for you for £100 a year. I mean, he was tough. He was too tough. Anyway, the president of the club came and requested a round of golf with me within a day or two of his bust up with Shanklin. And we played 3 or 4 holes, and he says, "How's your boss treating you?" I said, "Oh, it's not easy, Mr. Rubens." Johnny Rubens, he was a wonderful, wonderful man. And he said, "Well, what are you going to do this in the winter time if you haven't got a..." I said, "Well, I thought I'd like to go down to South Africa. They've got an 8-week circuit down there, and it was a straight shot down from London to Nairobi or to Joburg." And he said, "How much is it going to cost?" I said, £600. I've worked it out. He said, "Well, if I put £200 in and I get Dunlop to put £200 in, can you put £200 in?"
Yeah.
And I had £347 in the bank. I remember like it was yesterday. These were, and I said, "Absolutely." So, that was that. I stayed with Mrs. Baker in the same digs, £4 a week, she room and board. And I went down to South Africa on my first jaunt, and the sum total of the 8 weeks, I won £35 in prize money, and but the experience of it was and of course I got unbelievably homesick. One of the guys I stayed with down there, we weren't staying in hotels, we were staying with club members in South Africa, and that sort of thing. He said, "I want to take you to the game park." I said, "No, I want to go home." And, of course, as soon as I'd been home for 2 days, I realised, what a fool, you should have gone and seen some elephants. And anyway, it stood me in great, the experience, being able to play through that winter period. Yep. I hit the ground running that spring, and I started to make cuts in tournaments, and I actually made the cut in the Open at Lytham that Bob Charles won. He beat Phil Rogers.
Wow.
And that, making the cut there, I never really looked back after that. I kept making it up. And Mr. Rubens had volunteered. He said, "If you don't make your expenses, we'll pitch in to make sure you're not out of pocket," which was a wonderful actual way to help, rather than giving me, £1,000
Sure.
or whatever. It was, I kept my pride, and I was, as I say, making cuts and scraping through. I got a little car, little banger, and I drove to tournaments, and it was memorable.
Given that arc then, Tony, when you won the Open in 1969, it would be a fair question to ask, wouldn't it, to say how much did that change your life?
Well, it catapulted me. Well, actually, winning at Jacksonville before that.
On the PGA Tour. Yeah.
Playing, I got my tour card in '67, and, winning as quick as I did on the US Tour, I was the first modern pro from Europe to do that. And I was playing with Arnold the final day.
Wow.
And so to win playing with Jesus Christ, and Don January was the other in the threesome, that gave me a lot of self-confidence. I mean, I wasn't stupid. I knew that they were there to watch Arnold. You know, some kid from England. I was just in the way, you know. I mean, they were walking off before I finished out. But I was determined, and I got through that deal, and that gave me a big boost. And when I came back to the UK in ’69 from the American tour, I got a big following. I could sense that people they had an expectation. And of course, I suppose like any pro golf, you've got to be a bit of a show off, and it was pressure, but it was positive pressure as far as I was concerned. I felt up to it, and of course, Bob Charles loved Lytham. He was hanging around that whole week, and but I managed to outstay him and win by a couple of shots. And yeah, it was life-changing, but also I think we mentioned it in the book. You know, '69 was Great Britain was changing too. I mean, they went to decimalization. Mm-hmm. Prices of everything doubled. You know, prize money. Contracts had to be rewritten after a year because inflation took care of 60% of. Timing is everything in life, and from that point of view, my timing wasn't so good in 1969. And then beyond that, you know, winning the U.S. Open within 11 months, all the deals had been done on the back of the Open. So the U.S. Open really didn't mean, it wasn't a cash bonanza, as it were, and but. I was where I needed to be. You know, I'd made a pact with myself as a teenager that if I was going to do this, you know, you may as well go all in, because this is not a dress rehearsal we're going through. This is real life. And so I was sucking it up, and I was having a great time. I mean, I met so many wonderful people. At the Crosby, I used to play with Jim Mahoney, who was Sinatra's agent. And of course, I'd stay with him in Beverly Hills, and I met everybody that was anybody at the time, all the big actors and who loved golf. I played out at Bel Air all the time. And we had, you know, Bing and Bob Hope and all of that crowd. Andy Williams were great pals. I played with Andy in the LA Pro-Am every year. I was flying high. It was fun.
That's awesome. That same year, 1969, that we're talking about, he's talking about a whole stretch and era, but in that year, 1969, it was distinctive for what I mentioned at the start of the show and the concession at that Ryder Cup where the United States and GB and I halved the matches. When we come back, we're going to talk about the significance of that event and how it continues to reverberate.
Yes! This is golf.
A shot, honey.
And this is Golf's Superstore.
Oh, yeah, we'll take this.
In Ireland, golf is more than just a game. Come and experience our world-famous links courses and our world-famous parkland courses, all set alongside world-famous scenery. And visit our world-famous historic sites. And while you're here, enjoy our world-famous hospitality. Fill your heart with Ireland at ireland.com/golf.
Ben Hogan Golf Equipment is back. Established in 1953, we serve golfers who demand excellence of their equipment. Designed by the game's best engineers, forged in the world's best foundries, and built to order in the USA. Don't settle for off-the-rack disappointment. Elevate your game with custom clubs at direct consumer pricing. Exclusively at benhogangolf.com. That's benhogangolf.com.
We know there's more in you. More distance, more accuracy, more consistency. That's why we created the PXG Black Ops driver to unleash your potential. Packed with innovative technology and unmatched adjustability, PXG Black Ops drivers are custom fitted for your swing and engineered to maximize your performance. To play your best, play the best. PXG Black Ops drivers. Book your fitting at pxg.com or a PXG location near you. PXG, you've never played like this before.
Imagine your ultimate golf experience. There's a good chance it's Michigan's Magnificent 11. 11 spectacular courses from Boyne Golf, varied in both topography and play. Boyne Golf was named the #1 best golf destination in USA Today Reader's Choice 2025. And the Highlands at Harbor Springs is the #2 golf resort in that same USA Today poll. The ultimate golf experience. That's Michigan's Magnificent 11.
Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. You know, Hub's Peanuts has been cooking up the top 1% of peanuts for over 70 years. And these aren't your average nut. These are super extra large Virginia peanuts cooked in the USA. Family-owned Hub's Peanuts have more protein than any other nuts. So whether it's a boost on the course or a special gift, the variety of flavors guarantees Hub's Peanuts is just what you need. Family-owned, nutritious, delicious, and sustainable. Hub's Peanuts, it's just right. HubsPeanuts.com.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
4! This is golf, and this is Golf Superstore, the only place you can walk in for a free driver fitting, have it built, and tee it up the same day. Try Fit and Go today.
Welcome back inside the home of this legend, Tony Jacklin, a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, a multiple-time major champion at that. And we're talking about his new book, Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey. And we were just wrapping up 1969. So you end up squaring the match at 17 against Jack Nicklaus in the afternoon of those singles. How did it happen that the concession at 18 that is so famous in the annals of golf history came about?
Well, you know, when I hold this sort of 50-footer across the 17th green for eagle, there was a roar went up. Brian Huggett, actually, one of my teammates, was on the last green. He had a 5-footer. He thought I'd beat Nicklaus. Oh! He thought that roar was for the win, and he makes his 5-footer, breaks down on Eric Brown, the captain's lapel. I think we've won the Ryder Cup. And Eric says, no, Jacklin lost the 16th. And of course, we were in the unenviable position, as far as I was concerned, of being all square, the matches all tied out, everybody finished. And we were on that last tee, you know, the result resting on us. We both hit good tee shots, and Jack hollered after me. I was herring ahead of him, you know, focused, and he said, Tony, and he caught me up, and he said, are you nervous? I said, Jack, I'm petrified. He said, I just thought I'd ask, because if it's any consolation, I feel just the same way you do. And, you know, as I say, it's as much pressure as you could ever want to deal with. And we both hit good second shots. I was a bit outside him, and I putted up this far. You can actually go to YouTube and see that. But he had a 20-footer to take it all, which he knocked 4.5 feet past. And I mean, too far past for me to say, okay, good, let's go. Mm-hmm. You know, he had to make his putt, which of course he did. Like the great player he is. And as he bent down to pick his ball out of the hole, he picked my marker up and said, I don't believe you'd have missed it, but I would never give you the opportunity in these circumstances. Wow. And that was the concession. I mean, he knew that, you know, I'd won the Open 2 months before. He didn't want to see anything happen to spoil that. And he also knew, and this was his great gift thought process was always clear, even under that kind of pressure. He also knew that America would retain the Ryder Cup because of the tie, and that was that. And of course, 40 odd years on, we built the golf course, and now Aon are honouring us with the Nicholas Jacklin Award at Ryder Cups to come. So it was very special, and Jack's been a special part of my life, and Barbara, of course, for over 50 years now.
Yeah, it's one of the great acts of sportsmanship in the game. Now, you played on so many Ryder Cup teams. Then you eventually are asked to become the captain. But that bridge was a unique one in terms of where you stood in your mindset and your emotions. Could you take us through how it happened?
Yeah. I was left out of the team in 1981 in favor of Mark James. He got one of the captain's picks, despite having behaved abysmally badly in 79. I won't bore you with that, but it's all in here. And also, they banned Seve from playing in 81, and he was arguably the best player in the world. Yeah. And I didn't think they wanted to win the Ryder Cup very much, not because they left me out, but because they left Seve out. The fact that they left me out teed me off somewhat, and God knows what Seve felt like. But I was done with the Ryder Cup, and that was that. And I never thought any more of it. I said, well, that'll do me. And
Seve was effectively done too, if I remember.
No, that's
correctly.
Right. He was angry with officialdom. We're both done with it, and they left picking the captain in 1980 for the 83 matches until 6 months before the matches were played, because I didn't realise this till years after, but there was this argument behind the scenes that. Historically, a captain had been a generation or more older than the team members. And Bernard Langer especially was arguing for somebody closer to the age of the players to be captain. In fact, he was pushing for me. And in the end, that's what happened. They came and asked me if I wanted to do it or would do it.
Were you surprised?
Well, you could have knocked me down with a feather, I'm telling you. Like I say, I'd done with it. And if I'd have given them an immediate reaction, it would have been clear off. But it was an opportunity, so I slept on it that night. And there were things that weren't right behind the scenes. I mean, we were traveling at the back of the bus. Americans were traveling on Concorde. We were wearing anything anybody would give us. They had the best of everything, and self-esteem-wise, the American team, they were 2 up before we had a golf ball. We didn't have a team room, for example. We were left to go off with our wives or partners to local restaurants during the week? Once we were told who we were playing with in a sort of corner of the locker room, the next morning. And the team room was a very big deal as well. So I said, well, I'll do it if I get carte blanche to do what I want. So I started to list all these things: Concorde, Kashmir.
You just wanted equivalency with your opponents.
Yeah, and they kept saying yes. That's when I say they, the secretary of the PGA and the commissioner. So I said, well, I'll do it. And then I went to Lord Derby, who was the president of the PGA. He was hovering around waiting for the outcome of this thing. And I said, well, what about Seve now, your lordship? He says, well, he's your problem. You're the captain. You've accepted the captain's job. So, of course, I got Seve as a sort of, within a few days, we were having breakfast at the Prince of Wales Hotel in Southport, where he had a tournament there. And he was venting for the first sort of half hour, as you would expect. And I said, I know, Seve, I agree with you. They're a shower. They're a complete shower. But we don't have to worry about them anymore. I've got carte blanche, and I've said I'll do it, but I can't do it without you. I have to have you on board. But he's I didn't have to stroke him for long. He was fantastic. He said, okay, I help you at the end of that breakfast. And he was back in. And I'm telling you, you can draw a line across Ryder Cup history from that moment forward. I mean, we nearly won this thing at Palm Beach Gardens. We lost by a single point. And I never had a captain's pick because it was too late for me. They picked me so late that I couldn't get any captain's picks. I had to go on the order of merit.
Sure.
And we came within that of getting it done, and we were all pretty miserable, losing and going that close. And it was Sept that said, hey, don't be so sad. We shouldn't be so sad. This is the best we've ever done in America. And he was right. The reality of it was, he was right. But it was still a gut-wrenching thing. But it was a prelude to being able to get it done in '85.
We will talk about that when we come back. It's Tony Jacklin's new book, My Ryder Cup Journey, that has brought us together again with my old friend to share these legendary memories. Think about the story that you just heard, where Tony Jacklin was telling you about having to convince Seve Ballesteros, who's looked upon now as the spark of the European Ryder Cup side, to even compete in the competition once again. Fascinating stuff. Still lies in store as well. Stay with us.
I got ball fit in 2000, went on a little run. Then Bridgestone fit me again, and I went on another run. Got fit again for the new Tour BX. The ball fitting's been helping me. Will it help you?
What does it take to be an original?
Cam knows something about that. So does Chi-Chi, Charlie, and you get it. In 1955, we stepped onto the scene. Now a new generation of pros are wearing the most iconic styles in the game. The fit, the feel, the look. It's all an expression of you. Original Penguin. Here for the good times.
Golfers today are a different breed.
Who? Me? We see the game in a different way.
We all have our own styles.
We swing our own swing.
But we have one thing in common.
We are all about the details.
Introducing the Revel line of grips from Superstroke. With 3 distinct offerings to choose from, the Revel is in the details.
Want more distance, accuracy, and forgiveness with your irons? Yeah, you do. PXG's exceptional Gen 7 irons are custom fitted for your swing and feature unmatched precision adjustability to maximize your performance. To play your best, play the best. PXG Gen 7 irons. Book your fitting at pxg.com or a PXG location near you.
Nice, straight, and far.
Funnest experience I've ever had.
Would recommend it to anyone.
PXG, you've never played like this before.
FlightScope Mevo Plus is the ultimate indoor and outdoor golf launch monitor and simulator. It gives you the club and ball data you need with the accuracy you demand. Mevo Plus comes with ownership of simulated golf courses for you to play and practice at home. Mevo Plus is an essential golf partner to help you improve and understand your game better. Put more purpose in your practice. To learn more and get your Mevo Plus, shop now at flightscope.com.
When you choose Newton shafts, you're choosing more than a product. You're choosing innovation, pride, and excellence right here in America. We pay attention to the minutest of details, and you can feel that in the performance of our shafts.
Welcome back to the Fairways of Life show, continuing our conversation with World Golf Hall of Fame member Tony Jacklin, who has just written this new book, My Ryder Cup Journey, which is available wherever fine books are sold, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. So you had mentioned in the last segment how much 1983 impacted you. Did you have the opportunity to reflect at some point and go, actually take Seve's advice and say, you know what, we did only finish 1 point behind. If not for the heroics in 18 with Lanny Watkins and all the rest, we did come that close to the American team on their soil. How much after reflection, did that give you strength?
Well, I was committed to the thing. The first thing I think I did was, look towards the changes I'd made and, seeing if we needed to do any more. But we didn't. Once we had the team room, we took care of the clothing issues and the first-class travel, the players had responded. Beyond that, I was stroking them, obviously, and doing everything I could, but I couldn't play golf for them. I mean, that's why they were there. They were the best player. And they responded in commitment to this thing. The passion that they showed.
Didn't you use Sevi in some way to motivate different players if they were?
Oh, we did lots of things. I mean, I used Sevi. I mean, Sevi was fantastic. Go in there, go in the team and give him a shoulder rub. Tell him how well you think he's swinging. Somebody who's he was fantastic. But he was like I was. We believed passionately that we could get this thing done, if on a level playing field. And now all of a sudden the playing field was level. And we had a format that worked. The strength and depth of the American team was unbelievable, always had been, as opposed to the Great Britain and Ireland or European team, because we only had 2 Spanish players from Europe in 1979, Sevi and Antonio Garrido. Now you've got 14 European countries being represented in the Ryder Cup. So, but we were committed to this thing. We had that level playing field now. 8 players were exposed the first 2 days. You could hide 4, which was, I loved doing all of that stuff. I miss that even now, trying to outsmart the oppo, the captain, switching the power to putting all the foot at the front or in the middle. Or anyway, we got it done in '85 for the first time in 28 years. It's all in there. Langer was 28 years old. Hell, he's still winning tournaments as we sit here at 65. It's unbelievable. But
what changed at Muirfield Village that year?
Well,
I'm sorry. That was at the Belfry.
That was at the Belfry. Well, that inner confidence came through. I mean, there's a huge difference between bravado, which is what we had in the 60s and 70s. Oh, we can do this. We can do that, talking yourself up. But all of a sudden now, this was deep. This was confidence. I mean, no team was better than our team. We believed that with a passion. And we went out and proved it. And, then obviously, ultimately, 87 at Muirfield Village.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
First win, and there's only one first, and we did it. We'd never won on American soil. And
your set was like this now.
Yeah, well, to do it, at Muirfield and in Jack's backyard, it was, Jack was it anyway. I mean, it was never going to hurt his career. He'd done it all. But to be able to get it done there was significant. So it's been a wonderful journey, between 57 commitment to playing professional golf in my life to seeing out some of the close finishes. And of course, the success we had with it spawned the President Cup in '93 and also the Solheim for the gals in '93. And we've seen, the passion that runs through all of these different events is just, it's proven that people want a team, people love team. And the players experience far more pressure playing for the group than they do playing for themselves.
Sure, that makes sense too.
You get to a point with yourself where you say, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But for the team, you can't shrug it off like that.
When you captained for the final time, Did you decide enough is enough?
Yeah. It was funny. Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister in the UK during that tenure during the 80s. And in fact, Dennis Thatcher presented me with the Ryder Cup in '89, as I recall. And I witnessed a lot of her close associates turned on her and stabbed her in the back, and I'd done it 4 times by then, and we'd won home and away, and we scraped a tie to retain it in '89, where all the big names lost. Seve lost, Nick lost, Woodsy lost. But despite that, the journeyman came through. I mean, O'Connor Jr. with that wonderful 2-iron. And anyway, I didn't want to outstay my welcome. That was the most, I could have done it. I would have loved to have actually carried on with it. But I just was frightened of outstaying my welcome. I'd had such a wonderful few years and such fondest of memories with it. And I was reluctant to hog the position. I felt it was time for me to move on. And at that point in time, I had no intention actually of playing senior golf. I was doing television, commentary and that sort of thing. But, I walked away. Bernard Gallagher, who'd been my sort of sidekick for the last 3 Ryder Cups, he knew the form, he knew, and unfortunately for him, not initially, but he got his win out of it in '95, and he moved on too. So, but the Ryder Cup became elevated to the status of there was no event like it basically. I mean, until obviously COVID hit and hit us hard. It hit everything hard. Nothing was harder than sports, but God willing, we'll get a new footing and. It'll continue to be a success.
It's been brilliant to talk to you, Tony, again about these memories with the Ryder Cup and the significance of it, because in my view, folks, he is the modern architect of the Ryder Cup as we know it today. Because at the time that you mandated these changes of what essentially was equality between the 2 sides competing, there was a risk that the Ryder Cup might not even continue in its given stature because of the dominance of the United States team by comparison. And now today, as Tony noted, it's one of the largest sporting events in the world. When you decided to write this book, Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey, did you feel like there was any risk in writing a book? I find as a writer that there's always some element of insecurity that you're laying your soul out there for the world to consume.
Yeah, well, I've got to a stage in my life now. I'm 78 this coming July, around the corner. I've been everywhere I wanted to go. I've done everything. I tried to do everything I wanted to do. I don't have any regrets, I've been rich-ish. I've been broke. That's why I started to play senior golf. And that's why I moved to America. If I hadn't been broke, I wouldn't have moved to America. So I'm so happy that things turned out the way they did. I've got nothing to hide from anybody. So I went into the doing of it with Tony Jimenez, who's become a confidant and friend. With that sort of open mind, there was nothing out of bounds.
Yeah.
We talked through everything. So he sensitive guy as well, intelligent writer. He did a wonderful job on it, and I'm glad we did it.
There was one part in this book where you were talking about sharing again with the kind of no holes barred. You were talking about the passing of your first wife and how dark these days were for you. And it was contemplation of suicide. How close did you come to
no,
that?
Everything goes across your mind. It was a hell of it was the shock of it. It was out of nowhere. It wasn't like she got cancer and I had to prepare myself for it. She was in the car, she had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
It was instantaneous. I was playing golf with Sean Connery and another couple of friends at Valderrama, And Dave Thomas's son came out and said, there's been an accident. And, you know, the shocking thing, within 2 days, she died, she was buried, everybody had gone back to where and I was reeling. And it was that way for quite some time. I got through that period, and then, of course, I met Astrid, which was a miracle. I mean, she was visiting her sister, who was a close neighbor of mine in Spain, at Valderrama. And it was a miracle. What can I tell you? It was love at first sight. She knew, she was a mature woman, you know, in her mid-30s at the time. And she knew I had been knocked sideways, and she allowed for all that. But we've been married now for, what, 33 years. What a, you talk about luck. That was one of the greatest pieces of luck I ever had in my life. And of course, we have Sean, who's now 30. He's out there trying to make a crust, doing the same thing as I'm doing. No, it turned out, it was a journey, all right. It was a journey.
The book is called Tony Jacklin, My Ryder Cup Journey, and today it was about that journey and so much more. My friend, thank you very much. It is always a pleasure and an honor to see you. Thank you for hosting us in your home as well. And thank you to all of you for joining us for this week.